Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Mark.
So what do we get going on today?
Well,
other than tire issues.
Yeah, we get, I'm kind of, as the French would say, magani there.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with a garage right now with a few issues on a vehicle.
That's a little hot under the collar right now.
Yeah, I haven't wound down yet, so.
I guess, we're going to talk about a whole slew of things today. Current event stuff, one thing in the news, and then some anti hunting stuff. There's always been a question posed to me that was, I guess, kind of a conundrum. It's a very hard question to answer, but we'll get to that in a minute. But so we just finished the second week of the Moose Week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned that, Paul. I just talked to a guy. He has a camp on St. Croix, Danny, a friend of mine, and he had 2 tags in camp and they didn't fill either one.
I don't know how many permits are given for the second week versus the first week.
I don't either.
I should have looked it up before we started. But I definitely noticed Monday and Tuesday when I was working in Ashland, a lot fewer moose coming by. And
I don't know anything about that hunt last week other than what he told me. And they were, like I say, they were 0 for 2. They had, I think they had a tag in Zone 2 and Zone 3.
Okay. 1
tag in each zone. And they didn't feel, and the guys left. He said Friday they were pretty discouraged. So they
left early?
They left early.
Yeah. I did see, so we went in hunting yesterday. I did see 1 moose at the gate when we were registering to go in.
Right.
Coming out through Ashland. That was in the bed of the pickup. And I met several campers coming out with empty trailers, but they could have been...
Right.
Had the moose brought out earlier.
Yeah.
And, the general consensus of people in town was most people are like, I'm not really sure. I haven't seen much. Right. So first week, there was a lot of good numbers reported and I haven't seen anything for the second week yet.
Yeah.
So I got to suspect it's down a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not don't quote me on this, but I'm not so sure that Danny didn't say they didn't see any moose. They didn't,
that's funny because I've seen a lot of moose the past 2 weeks. We were going in Saturday morning and there was a small bull standing in the road.
Yeah.
Last day of the week, it would be a shooter in anyone's book. But it wasn't a huge moose by any means. And the bird hunting is a continuation of the same song and dance.
I haven't talked to you, Paul. I spent, I think 2 days last week, 2 or 3 days I went out. And there was one day and I walked over 10 miles. And I saw 4 birds total.
Oh, wow.
And got 1.
No kidding.
And I really had no right to get that one. He hung around so long. He was with another bird and they got separated and he wouldn't fly. He was in some thick stuff and he was, squeaking or whatever they do. And he should have taken off a long time ago. And I followed him for quite a ways through the woods, through the thick woods. And I finally caught him where I could see him and shot him. So I was lucky to get that one bird all week.
Yeah.
So
I've talked to a lot of hunters on a daily basis, and as a general rule, that seems to be, you talk to a few here and there that shoot some birds, kind of a regional thing, but as a whole, those are outliers.
Yeah.
I just talked to a guy today, spent 2 days up there, and they did not see a bird.
Yeah. I saw, like I say, I don't think I saw any the other days that I went out. I saw 4 Wednesday or Thursday. And I got 1. Yeah. So that makes 2 birds all season for me. Yeah, and I've had a lot of hours in the woods and stuff. So
those are expensive birds.
Very expensive birds. Yeah. Yeah.
You can't put a price tag on fun though.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a good time. Yeah. Just some good exercise.
You seen the other wildlife?
I did. I saw 2 deer right behind our trail camera where we set the trail camera up where you tracked the buck last year.
Did you check the camera?
I did, but I should have brought my SD cards.
Anything on it?
I couldn't tell my SD card. I couldn't get my SD cards to load on my computer.
Okay.
I meant to bring them out, Paul, so you could take a look at it, and I left them home.
We'll check this.
But anyway, saw 2 deer there up on the ridge behind the camera.
Yeah.
And 2 moose and a lynx. But it's funny
nice.
about the moose. The moose were right at dark when I was going back to camp on the paved road.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in the woods, but on the they were on the
it's
paved
funny
road.
you say that. Someone had mentioned to me that they've like all the birds that I've seen this year have been on paved roads.
Yep. Yeah.
Like I haven't seen any.
All the miles I traveled
hunting.
on dirt roads and stuff, I never see a moose, but I get on the paved road, headed back to camp, and and they were right on the places where the moose cross, where I always see them and stuff.
Yep.
There's
one more moose hunt.
I'm not sure, Paul.
I think there's a cow only.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what there is.
10/23.
Yeah.
That week. We have Youth Day, deer season starting, well, it's
next Saturday.
10/20.
Yeah.
20th. And then the following weekend's
Residence Day.
Residence
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Day. I can't believe it's already almost deer season.
2 weeks away.
And that would make that following Monday open to basically general firearm season for everyone. So it's sneaking up on us quick. So today we're going to do some shooting today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we got, 2 weeks and it's going to be relatively, I guess, warmer than it potentially could be the end of next week. So
I know you'll find this hard to believe, but it's raining out right now.
Oh, it does it nonstop?
I was watching a series.
Does it nonstop?
I was watching a series, Joe Holland's, and they're building a camp west of Portage. And I've watched a number of the episodes in the series, and it's rained every day that I've watched the.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that, and I commented on his channel there. I said it's been that way all summer up here in northern Maine. It's rained all summer.
Anytime I want to do something. Well, this morning I was helping a guy close his pool up. That's where I was coming back from.
Yeah.
Presque Isle. And, I'm like, we'll do it 8 o'clock Sunday morning. I look at the weather. It was going to rain like 8 to noon.
Yep.
I was like, well, whatever. Still going to do it.
Yeah.
Got to get it done because I don't have any other time to.
Yeah. And not only that, now with the rain, it's getting cold. It's 50 degrees outside. So, no fun. Windy.
You just suck it up and work through it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this afternoon
it's going to get colder.
Supposed to stop.
Yeah, it's going to get colder.
So, that sneaks up on us quick and then it goes by fast.
Yeah.
So one thing that I want to talk about today or in this episode, this is episode 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone cares. You don't seem like you care.
Well, I just do what I'm told.
Oh, is that how it goes?
I'm told to show up at 2 o'clock. I show up at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sometimes you tell me what we're going to talk about, and sometimes you don't.
So when I was a kid, I can remember, and it's been asked a lot since then, but there was a woman that asked me, and I was, 12 or so. I can remember her asking me, how hunting and how much outdoorsmen and hunters love deer.
Yeah.
How can you harvest an animal that you love so much?
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it is kind of a weird phenomenon.
Yeah.
If you kind of think about it, you're like, you like this animal a lot, but you're willing to harvest it. And she wasn't like an anti-hunter or anything. She didn't hunt.
Yeah.
Actually, I said her father was a big hunter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And she had mentioned her father. She's like, I never understood how you like something so much. But anyway, that question comes up a lot.
Right.
And it's hard to articulate.
Yeah.
It's really hard to articulate. I think one of the things is mankind in general is kind of hardwired to hunt.
Well, we're certainly hardwired to eat, and that's at one time that's what we ate.
We were hunter-gatherers.
It's survival.
We were hunter-gatherers.
Yeah.
And I think, it's ingrained in us.
No doubt it is. Yeah. at least in us.
To varying degrees. It's like most things.
Yeah.
You know, you had people that had that drive more than others. Yeah. But yeah, it's like an innate thing. And you're right. If push comes to shove, if it means death or survival,
right,
you're going to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So I think
they didn't have, you know, a few hundred years ago, these conflicts in their mind. They didn't think about these things. They ate. They killed and they ate. And as time as we become more civilized, people have a hard time rectifying it in their mind that we can like an animal and kill it.
So in other words, hunting isn't necessarily a learned behavior. Yeah. It's not that you have to teach your offspring how to hunt. Right. Let's say if you left.
Eating's not a learned behavior. That's how I correlate.
So if you left someone to their own accord, isolated on an island, no outside influence to develop on their own,
right?
They're probably going to
find something to eat.
They're going to hunt and gather.
Right.
Or else they're going to die.
Yep.
So you either adapt or
don't overthink it.
Nope. The other thing, we've talked about this before, is hunting fosters connectivity with nature.
Yeah.
You think about how much you learn.
Yeah.
But you get a lot of value from hunting.
Yeah.
You learn a lot about the animal you're hunting. You learn a lot about the environment.
Yeah, the overall, overall you learn a lot about.
It fosters connections with other individuals.
Yeah.
And I think of a lot of the good hunters that really are serious into hunting. There probably isn't a biologist that could hold a candle to what they know about the species that they're hunting.
Right.
Someone that's just learned from a book.
Right.
There's a lot that is learned from chasing an animal.
Experience.
Oh my word.
Yeah. Hands-on experience for sure.
There's a lot of good hunters that biologists couldn't hold a candle to as far as that animal's behavior and knowing, maybe they can't articulate it the same way.
Right.
Or use a lot of the big fancy words.
Right.
Or calculate a lot of the calculations they use for carrying capacity and all that stuff as far as animal populations. But they probably know the animal inside and out.
Yeah.
So hunting an animal provides a lot of value to us. So we talked about, adapting and developing a hunter-gatherer lifestyle, especially if you're forced to. Hunting also kind of tickles that instinct, kind of satisfies that urge that I think a lot of us have.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very satisfying thing to go out and work hard,
right,
and harvest an animal, and then utilize that
what you harvest
to your benefits.
Yeah,
but another important thing with hunting is it's steeped in deep traditions. People take their kids, pass those traditions on. And if you look at America, the majority of Americans approve of hunting. I think it's like 80 to 85% of Americans.
Oh, no kidding. I thought it might be the other way around.
Well,
because most Americans don't hunt.
They don't.
So I was just assuming that...
where things start to crop up, where it gets scary, is, we'll talk about some other countries here in a minute. As a general rule, when you pose a question to Americans and say, hunting for sustenance, right? You're going to eat what you kill.
Mm-hmm.
There's no issue with it. The majority of them are like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
When you start getting into like trophy hunting carnivores, so things you don't eat.
Like lions and,
well, coyotes and other predators, right? You don't eat coyotes and stuff like that. Or if there's derbies with cash prizes, hunting over bait or hunting with dogs, that approval rating gets really lesser and lesser. You talk about like coyotes and stuff. The antis, for some reason, they have this love affair with predators. Like they don't want you shooting them at all. And I've never understood that, because nature's cruel.
Yeah.
It's a cruel world.
Yeah.
If you look at a coyote taking a deer,
Oh, that's a bloody,
It's a
brutal affair. Yeah.
You know, I don't know if they don't realize it.
I don't think they do. I don't think they have a knowledge of how things really work in the real world in the outdoors. I don't think they have any idea. They have what they call the Disney mentality that, yeah.
Well, they add human traits to these animals.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of give them a...
What do they call that? Anthropomorphic or whatever. Yeah.
And it's a cruel world.
Yeah.
Whether it's a lynx taking a rabbit.
Yeah.
Or a coyote taking a deer.
I don't think people realize, like, you take the moose situation right now. Most people that don't hunt or don't spend much time in the outdoors, they probably assume the reason our moose population has declined the way it has in the last few years is because of us, because of the hunters.
Yeah. Which
is not true at all. Science, they've done moose studies now, and they've radio collared moose, and I think it's like between 70 and 80% of the calves on some winters are dying, and they're dying because of starvation, the winter tick.
Winter tick.
And that's a brutal death.
I can only imagine.
To have the blood sucked out of you by tens of thousands of ticks until you literally
are too weak to function.
Right. And I found them. I found the moose on snowmobile trails and roads and stuff, and they just die from.
And that's about as cruel can get.
That is about as much suffering. That's a long, slow death.
Yeah.
That is a long, slow death. And when you think about it, like I say, that I know that some years they've estimated almost 80% of the calf population, the ones that were born that year, died of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible.
And that's a huge number, 80%.
Doesn't bode well for the
overall.
Of the population.
There's no recruitment for the coming years and stuff, and that's what's happened. But yet I hear people say, well, we've shot them all off, and
No, and we'll get to that in a minute. And we've talked about it before, but hunters being the biggest contributors to conservation.
Yeah. That's a paradox, they look at,
from everything from financial to population management.
Mm-hmm.
They're the key, so the driving factor in the whole thing. But just to back up, hunting as a whole, which is nice to see that the general population of America, approves if you're hunting for food, sustenance, nutrition, which it varies when you start changing that up. But when you look outside of some of the European countries, like Germany and Italy, for instance, it's roughly like 80% disapprove of hunting.
Yeah.
Over there. Doesn't matter what you're doing it for. And I think a lot of that problem lies in the fact, so you talk about, traditions being passed on, and we live in such a society now with the modern advances. We've got everything at our fingertips. We don't need to hunt to survive.
Right.
And if that isn't getting passed on from generation to generation, and the innate urge isn't being stimulated because you're not going to die.
Right.
You've got everything you need.
Right. Food is easy to come by.
There becomes a bigger disconnect.
Yeah.
And then you become separated from that whole process. And you end up, like majority of the population doesn't approve of hunting now. They're so separated from it all because they don't need to.
Right.
And so at least in this country, it's important to have those traditions passed on because it's going to be less and less likely for someone to get into the sport just on their own.
And there's a lot of other things to do, there's other things vying for their time. But I think in Europe too, Paul, the difference over there is hunting was generally for the upper class over there.
It was
you couldn't take the king's deer or
it
whatever.
was aristocratic or whatever.
Exactly. They were disconnected from it. The
early on.
The general public was, they weren't allowed to hunt. They didn't have land to hunt on, and they weren't allowed to hunt on anybody else's land. So
now, I mean, all the European countries aren't like that. It was just Germany and Italy was one that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
As far as like, I mean, wow, 80% of the population disapproves of hunting.
Yeah.
Imagine if that was like that here.
Right.
Boys, that would be a tough scenario to.
Yeah. And it may get there
tradition.
someday. Here.
Yeah, the more we become disconnected, the fewer people that do it.
Yeah, I think I have no figures to back up, but I'm betting you that over the last 100 years, that number is, you say 80% approve. Well, I bet 100 years ago it was a lot more than 80%. It was probably closer to 100%. And
yeah, it's funny you say that because I think it was Aldo Leopold that had a quote about that.
Yeah,
basically the modernization of civilization and the advent of readily available food and stuff like that, how it's detrimental to hunting. And I'll have to double check that. I think it was Leopold that had talked about that.
And there again, when you talk about that, the 20%, I bet, is heavily in the, and it would stand to reason, in the metropolitan areas, that
they don't know about it.
They don't know about it.
No. And they think of it as a kind of a barbaric, and I'm kind of making some assumptions, but they think of it as a,
And don't those people live in a barbaric world? Have you seen the news?
Yeah.
They talk about barbarism. Yeah. And they're worried about me shooting a partridge or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're walking around. Yeah.
It's
crazy stuff.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I probably think about something related to hunting on a daily basis, right? Whether it's deer or if I'm out non-hunting season, I mean, it could be June. I see a deer track. I'm always looking.
Right.
Right.
I was going to say that if we drive to Presque Isle, I look in the same fields where historically I've seen deer before. I don't drive by a field without looking out in the field to see if there's a deer out there or a bear or a moose or whatever.
Now, do you think like these activists, the extreme activists, the antis and stuff that hate the fact that people do this stuff, do you think they care about these animals that much?
Nope.
But they're thinking about, they're only thinking about it when...
Nope. So they would have no problem putting a solar farm out there, right in the middle of a deer yard.
No thought about
it. In fact, they don't even understand the implications of that if you take the habitat away, those animals aren't going to move to the habitat next door.
No.
They're already being occupied by what that can carry, that parcel of land can carry. So they don't just magically walk over to the woods next door and
set up shop,
set up a happy life. They're gone. And they have no idea.
No. So what were we going to say?
No comprehension of, how things work in the real world, in the natural world.
So if we talk about conservation and hunters being, the conservationists that they are, both monetarily and through their actions, there's something recently that's come up in the news regarding California.
Yeah.
And so California, there's an island off the coast of California, Catalina Island, and they want to hire aerial snipers to basically eradicate the mule deer population off of this island because they were introduced in the 1920s, mule deer, to this island, and they've taken over. Yeah. They're destroying the vegetation.
Yeah.
So they want to hire aerial snipers to get rid of them. And of course, in California, to Californians, that's an ugly, terrible proposition. Kind of the issue that comes up when I think about it is they already have a hunting season for mule deer on this island.
Right.
So they can harvest, I think it was approximately 200 mule deer.
Yeah.
The island is 48,000 acres, we'll say 50,000 acres. The town we live in is 50,000 acres, roughly. It's a double township.
Yeah.
Population of this island is like 2,000 people.
Yeah, we're a little over 3, I think.
We're like 3,500, 3,000 to 3,500.
Yeah.
Right? So you can kind of equate it to like...
Here.
2 townships in the state of Maine.
Yeah.
So the first question that comes out, or I should say, what do I know about it, is one, you get mule deer that are an invasive species.
Right, they're not a native species.
They don't belong there.
Right.
2, you already have a hunting season on them, and you can take 200 of them. Well, you've got people hunting them. Why not expand that? So a lot of questions go through your head. Like, it doesn't really make sense. And there may be more to it than, you know, than what meets the eye that I don't know about. But so you wonder, how much is this going to cost the government to hire these snipers to come in and take them? Then what happens to the animals? Do they get wasted?
Right.
They get thrown off to the side?
Yeah. Well, if you're in a helicopter, I mean, you're not going to drop down and pick one up.
Just leave them there.
You may have a ground crew or whatever. I have no idea what they're doing.
So for me, it's like, well, holy smokes. Hunters would do it for free.
Yeah.
And actually,
pay to do it.
It would boost the economy.
They would pay to do it.
Because you could benefit both from sales related to the outdoor activity,
right?
Licenses, tags, whatever. So not only does it not cost your government anything, it's going to generate revenue.
Exactly.
Two, less of the animals are going to get wasted. You got to assume most of these hunters are going to use what they harvest and what they take. So it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But then again, most of the things California doesn't make any sense anyway.
So we talked earlier, Paul, they did that in Maine. We've done that.
There's some islands on the coast, right?
It's funny how people's perception can change from, oh, you're killing those innocent deer, to where the deer are carrying the ticks that carry Lyme disease. So on those islands, you were about 100% guaranteed you were going to get Lyme disease.
No kidding.
Yeah, on like Monhegan. So and there was no predators, and I don't know if they allowed hunting on the island. And so, and then people realize that you are going to get sick from these deer, from an overpopulation of deer. You are going to get a disease. And it can be, I think now is probably, you were in the medical field, you would know a lot more about treating it than I do. I think years ago, it was tough to diagnose and treat, I think. So all of a sudden, they have no problem killing the deer when they realize that they're going to get sick from the deer. It
changes your perception.
Yeah, their whole perception changes when they, no longer is it, we don't want you to kill them, but kill them all, you know. They're eating my shrubs around my house, and
my flowers.
We're all going to get sick from Lyme disease and stuff.
Well, and that's another thing that they brought up as far as this island is, you know, it's all the native vegetation is being eaten. So now it's driving these deer into neighborhoods.
Right.
And they're eating in people's backyards and stuff. And so, I mean, it's like hunters can do the job well. Yeah. And it can kind of benefit everybody. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know how that gets lost.
Sometimes
in the scheme of things.
They just think, and of course, we certainly think the opposite way. They just think government will do a better job of it. We'll let the government deal with it. And
anything the government's going to do is going to cost 10 times as much.
Yeah, and they're not going to do it well.
And it's going to be done so inefficiently that...
Yeah. Sorry.
That reminds me of a story of... There was a guy I worked with that had a barn he wanted moved. It was a big barn. And I may have the numbers slightly wrong, but I just remember he had paid a guy to come in and do it. And it was quite a project to move this barn.
Yeah.
I think it ended up costing... He was moving it down the road.
Yeah.
And it was like a few miles out in the country. And it was, I think, like $10,000 or whatever, have this barn moved. There was a building downtown that I think the government was moving just down the road. It was over $100,000.
Yeah.
And he goes, I moved a bigger building further and did it for like 1/10 of the price.
Have you ever seen those videos of the Amish doing that?
Oh, yeah. The barn
they'll do it for a lot less than that.
Yeah, that's crazy. They all get around and pick it up.
They pick the whole building up.
It's insane.
It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Those guys are.
Yeah.
So, So the thing in California, that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes you just wonder. So that brings us back to the whole, the first question of, people ask, how do you harvest something that you love so much?
Yeah.
And it's a tough question to answer, because you really think about it and you're like, boys, it is an odd phenomenon.
Yeah.
you value
Yeah.
the animal so much. But I think the whole process, you get so much in return that it all just kind of makes sense. And I don't think you can fully appreciate it unless you've experienced it.
Yeah.
And so these, anyone who's an activist against this, I don't think they can fully understand. And it's almost pointless to argue with them. You're not going to get anywhere.
No, you're wasting your time and breath. So
unless they experience it, they're never going to fully grasp exactly the whole scenario.
Yeah.
Why it is that you do what you do.
To somebody that doesn't do it.
To someone that doesn't do it. Back to the Lyme disease thing. I had a guy ask me about that. Like, how come we're not worried about getting ticks on us?
Don't have any deer up here.
And
we have no ticks.
So
problem solved.
And how can you prevent them? And I was like, well, so I gave him some strategies to prevent ticks, using different repellents, obviously staying clothed.
Yeah. Permethrin
impregnated clothes.
Yeah.
DEET is another one that you can use. There's a compound that's actually newer that's been approved that's found in grapefruit skin and yellow cedar. Mm-hmm. It repels ticks as well as like a low concentration of DEET.
Right.
And it's all natural. It's organic.
Right.
I see very few cases of people.
Yeah.
You do hear it's a little bit more common, but the black-legged ticks that are responsible for Lyme disease and stuff like that is basically non-existent up here. And there was a study done by the University of Maine, I think it was in 2022, June of 2022, that they talked about it. And so we've always attributed the lack of ticks to harsh winters and the inability of those ticks to survive winter. And they've come to realize that it's probably not so much the hard winters, that there's something else about inland northern Maine that's contributing to the fact that there's no ticks as compared to coastal Maine. Yeah. Because they did a study where they basically were looking at how these ticks can make it through the wintertime, and they could survive through the harshest of harsh winters.
But our deer population too, Paul, is...
So you're right. So a tick, I believe, if my memory serves me well, a tick can only move a few feet in its life cycle. Yeah. It needs a host to carry it someplace. So, but they didn't have all the, the why behind it, but there seems to be a lot more in play than just the severe winters. And so that begs to reason, if the winters get less severe, does that mean we're going to have ticks? Not necessarily.
Right.
Because there's more at play. Yeah.
Well, certainly, like I say, and I wish I read the article years ago, like on Monhegan, and they did a number. I don't know if it was Shebig and Peaks Island, but there was more than one island on the coast of Maine that did that, and that brought in these people to shoot the deer, the snipers, like you're mentioning California, and on those islands you were just about 100% guaranteed, Paul, you were going to get Lyme disease. And it was driven by the deer population. The host, that was the host for these ticks. And that is why they wanted to kill them. That's why there was nothing on these islands to kill the deer. There was no predators in winter. They had no winter kill. They didn't have any winters to speak of, like we know winter up here.
Yeah, when it starts negatively affecting people.
Yeah, their health.
Then they have no problem. Killing something or doing something like that.
It's like I say, it's a paradox that the hunters do more for conservation. We pay for the study and the biologists and the scientists to regulate and to manage the species, and that we're part of it. We're part of the management and the regulation of the species. We can harvest so many and keep a healthy herd. And
I don't hunt over bait for bear, stuff like that. And I don't look upon it negatively, because there's some things as far as like bear hunting. How are you going to shoot a bear?
You're not going to. We talked to Joe about that. All the years, Paul, all the years that I've been in the woods hunting, And there are quite a few bear.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of bear. It's not like
because I think when I was a kid, I never saw a bear out and about.
I could have never shot a bear out deer hunting or partridge hunting.
No.
Could have never done it. And I don't think you could either. In your lifetime, I think of all the hours and the days that we spent in the woods, neither one of us would have ever shot a bear. That is how you harvest a bear.
It's about the only way you can. Trapping.
Yeah.
Which is what Joe does.
Yeah. Same thing though. You're doing it over bait. You're trapping over bait.
Yep.
So it is the only efficient way of harvesting, and they do need to be harvested. We have more bear now than when I was young.
Can you imagine right now if we didn't have a bear season?
And they're a big driver on the deer population up here in a negative way. I mean, they take a lot of fawns in the springtime. Bear take a lot of fawns. They take a lot of calf moose.
Yep.
So out of those, we were talking about 80% of the calf moose dying. Well, that's after the bear have already taken a large portion of the calf population when they're first dropped. I mean, so when you look at it overall, probably 90-something% of the calf moose are dying within the first year.
Yeah.
When you add into the bear predation and then the winter tick, so there's no shortage of bear.
No, around the house, I see him every year walking across the lawn.
And they've gotten more liberal with the, I think now you can, like Joe was saying, I think you can shoot one and trap one.
Yep.
So you can now take two. It was always one, and now you can take two. And
so, I can't imagine what it would be like if they get rid of like baiting. Because you're just you're not gonna take any bear.
No,
hardly at all.
No. Dogs and baiting are about the only ways you can efficiently.
Dogs are the other.
There'd be very few people out. Be very few out-of-staters coming up here to go sit in the woods waiting for a bear to walk by.
Yeah, and that's a lot of the outfitters. That's their business.
That's where they make their money.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it trickles over into taxidermists as well.
Yeah,
some of the taxidermists I talk to, majority of their business is.
Yeah, when I worked in places like Ashland and Eagle Lake, where the restaurants and stuff, they come in buy the gas and the convenience stores and the restaurants and bear hunting in Maine is a big economic deal. And, so
I was talking to a guy about that the other day. He was complaining about how Ashland doesn't have he's like, we need a hotel or something in this town. He's like, we've got nothing like that. And we got talking about back in the day. Remember Dean's?
I sure do. In Portage,
during hunting season.
Yep.
That place would be packed with people.
Yep.
That was...
Out-of-staters.
Yep. That was right full of...
Yeah. And there was a big deer population up around that area.
Man.
Yeah. Back in the day.
Not like that
40,
now.
50 years ago. There's a good deer population there.
You don't see that.
No.
But that was hopping. That brought a lot of money into the area.
It sure did.
Those seasons.
Yeah.
Bear hunting and deer hunting and moose hunting's a big economic boom now.
Yeah.
That moose season or those towns are busy.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
But that's the problem with that is it's so limited as far as, especially out of state, how many tags there are, how many permits they give out. That's really limited to there's the odds of you getting one aren't good. I mean, anybody can go deer hunting or bear hunting.
Yeah. You can
but moose hunting, it's very small number can go.
Yeah.
So
I guess this coming week, we're gonna do a little bird hunting and fishing.
Maybe some fishing,
Hoping to get out. Last chance to.
I'll double check my law book, Paul, just to make sure. But I'm quite sure that there's some places up here that are open through the year. So and maybe we may find some good fishing. Maybe not.
Bird hunting isn't quite as good as we'd like it. So might as well do a little fishing.
Yeah.
Be nice to shoot some birds and catch some fish all in the same day.
Yeah.
So probably the last chance to do it that it's going to be somewhat seasonably.
Right.
Warm.
It's only going to get colder. We talked about that earlier. It's only going to get colder.
More brutal.
Yeah.
And they've, like I said, they've opened up that fishing. Well, it's not closed. Right?
Doesn't close, I believe, all year. It's open all year, round. So
I don't want to be standing out there in December, but
no, not when the snow's flying.
No,
I have fished in the snow in May, but I don't want to be out there now.
So we got some shooting to do.
Yeah.
Gonna go sight in our rifles or make sure they're on. Just get that out of the way before it's too cold. And there's been some falls.
Yeah, why do we wait so long anyway? We ought to be doing that in like July or August or something, or maybe at least September.
I look back and there's some falls that
we're out there shivering.
I'm doing it like the weekend before deer season.
We're only 2 weekends right now before.
Freaking brutal.
Yeah. And it's not warm.
No, and I just was watching it pour outside.
Yeah.
And we're going to shoot the 30 Remington, right?
Yeah, the old 30 Remington.
Put a couple, you know what? You should put a peep sight on that.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if you could. I don't
deer
know.
hunt with it.
Yeah, I don't know if you could.
Actually, yeah, you're right. It has no... Yeah, I don't think there's any holes in the receiver.
No, I don't think so. It's not tapped for a scope or anything. So this is a Remington Model 81.
Model 81.
Which was the sister gun of the Model 8, which was, but they're basically the exact same guns.
They are.
Other than a change in the forearm.
And I think the stock went from
one went to a pistol grip.
Pistol grip.
Yeah, and so basically they're the same gun, and a little bit of history there. They're the gun that Frank Hamer used to kill Bonnie and Clyde. Yeah. He was a Texas Ranger. They had a military version, or excuse me, a police version.
Police version.
That I think had a 10 or a 20 round clip.
Yeah.
That was the difference of the police version.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's Frank Hamer.
Hamer. Hamer.
Yeah. Not Jack.
Yeah. Not Jack Hamer.
I did a video on it. For some reason, I must have been thinking Jackhammer.
Yeah.
And after I posted a video, I was like, "Oh my god!" I said Jackhammer.
I think I told you.
Yeah,
I think I told. I said the guy Paul.
One guy
I looked it up.
It.
Yeah, I looked it up. I said that wasn't Jack. That
I had Frank written down too. And I knew it was Frank. But you get talking so fast, and you get thinking.
Well, it's easy, especially something like that. It's easy because you associate.
So I had a guy say it's actually Frank. And I said, I know. I must have had jackhammers on the mind or something. I said it just came out.
We forgive you.
Yeah.
If that's the worst mistake you had, then you're all set.
Try not to, but sometimes you get a little slip of
it happens.
Your mind goes someplace else, and
so
so going to be a fun week this week, and then we'll jump into deer season. Oh, one last thing before you watch Jeff Doyle at all?
I do. I watched it this morning.
He posted was that the biggest buck? In Massachusetts for muzzleloader?
I believe it was. Yeah,
I saw that posted. I haven't watched it yet.
In Massachusetts, that thing dressed out, I think, at 196.1.
Oh, no kidding.
In Massachusetts,
it's a big deer.
That's a huge deer.
Yeah, I can't wait to.
And I've got to assume it was probably in like December at that.
Yeah, because
that was it just came out. I think yesterday.
Last night.
And I watched it this morning. That was an amazing, and I enjoy. Jeff Doyle's.
Yeah, what's his channel?
He's a heck of a hunter.
Mountain Hunter, right? Is that his? Well, no. Jeff Doyle's his
Tracking
YouTube.
200, I think.
Well, that's his series.
Yeah.
Let me look real quick.
Yeah, it's Jeff Doyle Hunting. Yeah, he is. I've watched him actually, Paul, for a few years now. I don't want to say quite a few because I don't know, but I know it's been a few years I've watched him, probably since he started.
Isn't that awful? I don't remember people.
So being subscribed to him, I get the notification that was coming out. I look forward to it. Yeah, I think it was #1 muzzleloading back.
So on YouTube, it's Jeff Doyle, but
and he had
on Instagram when I saw the advertisement for it, the post, it's Mountain Hunter.
He had a funny story there that.
Well, don't spoil it for me.
Okay, but this won't spoil. The funny story was that he had to babysit the kids. Obviously, his wife works, and he was supposed to babysit that day, and they found someplace or somebody to take care of the kids. So to dump the
kids off?
So he could go, because they had the perfect snow, he said.
Jeez, I can relate to that.
Yeah, so he thanked, in the video, he thanked his wife a number of times there, because he was supposed to be, he had daddy duties that day. Yeah, and he'd get out of it.
Well, you got to do what you got to do. You only get a small bit, like Lacey's dreading the next month.
Yeah.
She keeps using do you really have to do this right now? Because you're going to have a month of Like, I'm not going to see you.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's only a month.
It's just a little snapshot in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Out of the whole year.
Yeah.
And
it's not like you only get a week, Paul.
No, but I mean,
you get a few Saturdays.
Yeah, but it's work and hunt.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot.
But you're home at night
here.
and stuff.
Well, I go to camp most Tuesday nights and Friday nights.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot and everything. She does a lot when I'm off.
Right.
With she times things. So if she has to do one thing with one kid or an appointment or something like that, I'm here and she pretty much knows come November, like she can't schedule anything.
Right.
Without having like another babysitter.
Right.
So
pull a Jeff Doyle.
So kudos to Jeff Doyle. He's
have somebody else take care of the kids.
Yeah. Kudos to him. I know. I guess I can relate big time with that.
It was he, like I said, he gave kudos to his wife there a number of times in the video. That, he couldn't have done it without her.
He probably had a lot of damage control after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been wanting to watch it. I haven't had a chance to sit down to kind of just watch it completely.
It's a good video.
Uninterrupted.
Yeah.
So I just wanted a time frame that I can sit down and watch it.
Yeah, he's a good hunter. Yeah. Jeff is.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, see if I figured you've seen it.
I don't miss many. That's my my vice is YouTube hunting and fishing. But, I don't do too much. I don't watch TV, but YouTube hunting and fishing. I subscribe to a lot of channels.
Yeah.
And look forward to them.
Yeah.
So
it's a fun time of year. A lot of that stuff coming out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to check that out. So we better go get shooting.
Yeah.
Rain stopped.
All right.
We'll go see those gun shoes. So
yeah.
I guess until next time, get outside.
It's good for the soul.
See ya.